impacts his chance of becoming the Niners' starting quarterback?
You're starting there, Heath?
I don't think it affects his chances of becoming the starting quarterback. I mean, his play will dictate that. Chip Kelly, Jed York, Trent Baalke, their job is to say, well, we'll start with Chip because he's going to be the one that makes that decision. Who gives us the best chance to win? His political stance has no bearing on that whatsoever.
Agreed.
I do think this might affect the locker room to some extent with guys that stand on a certain side of the fence. This locker room, I believe, is already somewhat in discord over multiple things. We'll see how this affects this one moving forward.
Yeah, guys at different positions throughout every locker room have their own belief systems. And that's a part of it. So your play is going to determine whether or not you are able to get on the field. Chip is in a situation where if Cap is his best quarterback, he's going to put him out there. So I don't think that aspect
Cap
of it.
is his best quarterback. I mean, if we're making this a football conversation, is it even a
Yeah, but the question, Cap has to show him that he's his best quarterback on the field. So that's what I'm saying. If he puts that on film, I don't think this in any way affects his ability to be the quarterback from the question that you're asking.
If people inside the locker room find themselves polarized by these comments, and frankly, we should acknowledge that they might be polarized on both sides, right? There might be people who think that this means that he is more of a leader because he's willing to stand up and take a stance on something, and there will be people who are strongly offended who don't want him to be their leader. I'm wondering how this impacts his ability to lead the team, because that's what the starting quarterback is asked to do.
And that situation is different. Eric can't win this conversation today. I can't win this conversation. Colin most certainly can't win this conversation. His teammates that support him or oppose him can't win this conversation. The Niners can't win this conversation. Yeah. There's a race issue that is a strong issue in our country. And white people, that you don't believe it exists, I promise you it exists. I think we have an issue that people do like to just look away from. And I respect any man that will stand up for his beliefs. Colin kept using the word to Steve, educated. This is where I feel like maybe he's not educated on why he's standing for the flag and the national anthem. Our country stands for freedom. Freedom of speech that he's taking advantage. Our country doesn't stand for racism. Our country, our flag, our national anthem was built on a factor of peace, sanctity, love, community, and then freedom for all. There are some bad few that take advantage of the freedoms. I don't like this particular stance, but I respect anyone that will stand up for their passions and beliefs.
He has the right to that's a part of this country. You have that freedom. You have that right to stand up and say what it is you want to say. You're absolutely right. There's no way we can win this. By far, greatest country ever. I'm saying this is the best land, but you are afforded the right to be able to stand up and do what he's doing. Now, as he said, is his argument against the flag or is against what's happening out there? It's not against the flag, but he's using the flag, in my opinion, as a forum to get people to listen to what it is he has to say. And from an activism standpoint, we're asking athletes to stand up and say something. Don't be hypocritical when they don't do it in the manner in which you want them to do. Don't be as hypocritical. So I get what he's trying to do, and I see that he wanted to use the flag to get information going, but he's got to take it to a different level.
It's a tough debate. It's a tough debate on both sides. You know that organization very well. My initial reaction was, man, Colin just made it tough on himself. He just made it tougher on the organization. Knowing what you do about that organization, what was your initial reaction?
Number one, I know from an organization standpoint that they are concerned about how things look from the outside. But I also know that they're not going to any way ask this man to stop being who he is. I do believe that. If that's how Colin feels, and you saw the statement that the Niners released, that's a part. You are afforded that ability as an American to be able to say what you want to say. They are going to afford him that ability as an organization. Yes, it does bring questions that everyone's going to have to answer, from the owner, from the ownership of the team to every player in that locker room. You are going to be asked, how do you feel about that? And when you are asked about it, now you have to put your opinion out there, and now you have to deal with people who agree or disagree with what you're saying, and that becomes, a big-time issue with the entire organization.
Respectfully, with regards to what, Heath, you said earlier about what the flag stands for in the genesis of America, I think Colin Kaepernick's point is that that's not the story for a lot of people in America, that they don't necessarily associate it with such a rosy background, because that's not the background that is. Well, no, but he's saying they're all of these positive associations, and I'm saying there are people in this country that don't.
Doesn't mean it's not true. This is the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Your truth and someone else's truth are not necessarily the same.
And that's why I said racism exists. But our country and the truth of what it's founded on, not what a few dictate it or do to assault or offend a particular race. The truth of what our country was founded on is such that speaks freely in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I think truth is a relative term here.
Let me say this last thing. If you've never lived that truth, and that's where it is, if you've never lived that truth, then it doesn't exist for you. And that's
what truth has he lived? That's what I want to know.